Hey guys, now that we are heading into version 3.4, which quite drastically will shake up our metagame, and we have all the information available for version 3.5, it's time to make an update for our individual character tier list. Quick edit guys, I recorded this tier list before we got the confirmation about Enigma's kit. Now that we know everything about him, he is obviously an S tier character and he's gonna be a must pull. He edges out both Marsha and Kiparina because of two reasons. One is he has a follow-up attack, therefore he will deal a quite significantly higher amount of damage and adds more damage to his team overall than both Marsha and Kiparina would. Additionally, he is part of simply the better archetype. Dynamo is better than both Afterglow and Impromptu. That makes the character much more valuable than our other two cuties. So that's the reason why Enigma ranks here in our S tier. This tier list is then up to version 3.6 except for the Recoleta Euphoria update. Now Recoleta would still be played together with Melania and Getian and stuff, so her teammates are not crushing it too much anymore either. She would either be in the same tier as Igor in the D tier, or maybe one tier higher in C tier, right? That's what I would predict. But yeah, the information about Enigma being S tier is 100% confirmed. Recoleta, we gotta wait and see a little bit for that one. But now, enjoy the tier list all the way up to version 3.6. This time we do it a little bit differently compared to how we normally do it. I will not set up every single character individually, but I will straight up show you the final product and the final tier list that, keep in mind, is ready and set all the way up to version 3.5. You can see that one on your screen. We're gonna talk ourselves now from the bottom all the way up to the top, and I will touch upon every single individual character rating here and talk briefly about why the character ranks how he does. The first thing that you have to know is that some characters here are not good enough and too irrelevant to even earn themselves a spot on this tier list. Let me touch briefly upon every single character that doesn't make the list and explain to you very quickly why that is the case here. For example, we can see characters like Centurion, Noir, and even to some extent also Windsong. What do these characters have in common? They are all the main DPS characters for the ultimate archetype. They are too irrelevant though, because if you would play a main DPS for the ultimate archetype team, you would use either Igor or Recoleta. And you even have a little bit of a niche peak for speedrunning purposes with A Knight. That makes 3 main DPS characters in total for this ultimate archetype, and that is more than we need. There's another reason, of course. You can see that the ultimate archetype team here doesn't really crush it in the metagame, and they are like rank 7, 6, 8, right? It is very low on the metagame, so purpose to ranking Centurion, Noir, or characters like Windsong is not given here. The same scenario occurs if you look at a character like Jiyu Nangje. If you play the follow-up attack team, you would do this with Anionala, with Kalabauna, Flutterpage, and Fatutu of course. Liang Yue and Chen Higuang are now new, so that is all we need. We have no usages for Jiu or for Pickles, right? The follow-up attack team is set in stone, and we have a team that is like rank 2 or second rank when it comes to the team tier list that I will bust out very soon. Probably tomorrow. Same for Pickles, right? Follow-up character, no usages. Even in teams with Kalabauna, who would have a Mineral Afflatus character as the main DPS, Pickles is still outclassed because you would rather use a character like Anionala. Then Eternity is like heavily out of favor, not viable anymore. I will touch upon this topic more when we talk about characters like Robushka or Medicine Pocket, you know, concerning the blood type ranking. Then Carcania is also the only place she would have is in poison, but we use Willow, Ramona, Tuesday, Sotheby, characters like this. Carcania doesn't have a place. We already talked about the follow-up kind of setup with GU and Pickles, which also explains the non-ranking for the character 37. You know the tragic story that always occurs with Druvis, completely irrelevant, has no place, is too weak. Mrs. Bubble is too heavily outclassed. We have characters here like Marsha, like Kipparina that provide way better shields and way bigger shields. Even a character like Ezra is better than Mrs. Bubble, and Ezra is F tier, so therefore if you are worse than a character in F tier, you will not be ranked here. And now we can hop in and talk a little bit about the characters that are ranked in the F tier here. We already talked about A Knight, that is just a niche pick, and the only reason why he's even making this list is for this very niche of speedrunning purposes, in case you want to clear easy content even faster than you already do. Kalabauna, also very niche. The entire team setups that were based around Anionala, they completely fall apart now. I will talk about this more when we go and talk about Anionala, but yeah, Kalabauna is not crushing it at all. She would be played in the follow-up attack team together with Anionala, Flutterpage and Fatutu, but Flutterpage and Fatutu now receive a new home. They don't want to be played together with Kalabauna and Anionala anymore, but if you decide to skip Liang Yue and Chen Higuang, they would still be the second best follow-up attack team in the game. That's the reason why Kalabauna makes the F tier and is ranked. Sotheby is too weak of a sustained character. Same for Ezra, but they both have something in common, and that is that they are pretty much the only options for their respective archetypes. We have the Euphoria update for Willow and Tuesday respectively, and Sotheby would like to be played together with Ramona, and Willow and Tuesday together. She would be, in theory, the best in slot support for this poison team. Now, since you would not want to play Sotheby because as an individual character she is too weak and will not be able to sustain that team, you would replace Sotheby with any viable sustain of your choice instead. But Sotheby still deserves to be on this list because this poison team here sees a little bit of a glow up. Ezra will probably be replaced in the Dynamo archetype very soon, same as Sotheby. He is too weak of a sustain character as an individual, but since he has this place in the Dynamo archetype, he deserves to be on this list, even though be it on the very bottom. Getian, same for the entire Ultimate archetype team, is pretty much irrelevant, but there is a slot for him here because he would still be played in the best in slot Ultimate archetype team if you play this team with Recoleta. Then you would use Melania and Getian together with them. Now, 6 received the Euphoria update. He will only be a little bit of a thing for one version, right? Because in version 3.4 you want to free up, or you have to, in fact, if we are being honest, free up Flutterpage from the Afterglow lineup. 6 is the best option for you to do this with his Euphoria update in version 3.4. Now that we have the information about version 3.5 though, and we know that both slots that 6 could in theory fill are already closed up because he is able to apply poison and he is able to apply burn. That means Afterglow and poison would be viable options for him. But now that we know that we get Ramona, who takes his spot in the poison team, and we get Lorenz Butterfly, who takes 6's spot in the Afterglow archetype team, 6 becomes completely irrelevant. Now, the reason why he makes this list still is because you could use him as a substitute in order for you to either skip Ramona or Lorenz Butterfly. That nets him a spot on this list. Then we have Muldir and Lopera. the only reasons why these cuties are on this list is because of the recent release of Igor. And Igor loves these two, those are his daughters, and he wants to be played together with these two. That makes a viable, somewhat viable ultimate archetype team possible, and that's why they cannot be completely ignored, so they have to be on the list. But the only place I can give them, Lopera is completely outdated, and Muldi is, as we all know, not crushing it as an individual. So the only place I can give them, since I have to put them onto the list because of Igor, is the F tier, and that's why they are here. Alright, then we can move on to the E tier. Here we have Melania and Recoleta for the ultimate archetype team. Now these two as individuals are better than everything would be that we put into the F tier, right? Melania is much more important piece for this ultimate archetype team based around Recoleta than, let's say, a Getian would be. She is way more important for her team than like a Muldir would be, you know? You get the point. For a long time, all the time before Igor, Melania was like the only reason that an ultimate archetype even exists as an archetype. So she deserves a little bit more credit than the characters in F tier. Same for Recoleta, right? She is, yeah, not way worse than Igor, so still somewhat viable, that he deserves more credit than anything in the F tier as well. She would be a better main DPS than, let's say, Carla Bauna would be. She's way more important to her team than a Carla Bauna would be for her team. Then we have the rank up team here with Marcus, Sabeth, and Argus. Yeah, the rank up team is not crushing it anymore. They desperately need some form of update, otherwise they are too irrelevant. They are still more relevant than, let's say, an A-Knight is or a Carla Bauna is, you know. They are a little bit more viable than the ultimate archetype team is, so they have to be ranked higher than the characters in F tier. Because you see, the F tier, there are a lot of ultimate archetype characters here with A-Knight, Getian, Muldir, Lopera, right? And the rank up team still boosts a little bit more firepower, and yeah, overall their power level is a little bit above the ultimate archetype teams. Then we move into D tier and we see Igor, right? That would contradict a little bit what I just said. But since this is an individual character tier list, and yeah, we have to rank characters based on their individual power level as well. Even though we gotta keep in mind, and obviously, it matters the most of how a character performs in his team, what role does the character have in his team, and how important is he for this team. And Igor is very important for the overall meta game, because he is not just a replacement for a character like Recoleta. He has more value than that, because he creates a brand new ultimate archetype team with Muldir and Lopera, and he is the only reason why this team is even viable. Yeah, somewhat viable, right? You get the point. Without Igor, a team with Lopera, for example, would never ever exist under any circumstances. You know what I mean? And that gives him more value than the characters in E or F tier, because now we have a little bit of hope and there are more possibilities for this team to become better. Like, let's say if the only thing pretty much that this team needs is a Euphoria update for Lopera, and then this team will have future potential and it could shine more than it currently does moving forward. You know what I mean? He's the newest character, he has more individual power than all the characters in the E tier, and that's why Igor is here. Now, Medicine Pocket also ties into the argument for the ultimate archetype team, because since the ultimate archetype team fell off a cliff and is not meta viable anymore, really, right? They are not on top of the meta as they always were with Recoleta. they fell off a cliff. So what that leads to is that we could free up now Robushka from this ultimate archetype team, because currently, if you care for meta, which obviously you should, otherwise you suck as a player, right? Then you would not even play an ultimate archetype anymore at all, anywhere, you know? For example, I'm doing this. I have Recoleta, I have Melania, I had the whole ultimate archetype team. I enjoyed playing them, and I always played them. Now, not anymore, because they are too weak and they're not holding up with the metagame. That lead to us being able to free up Robushka. And since this ultimate archetype team is now too bad, we free up Robushka from it and put her into the Blood Tide team. That makes Medicine Pocket be completely irrelevant, right? You would never play Medicine Pocket outside of Blood Tide, but Robushka is the better sustain objectively, and therefore she is now in this Blood Tide team, because again the ultimate archetype team fell off a cliff and we don't really want to play them anymore, so we take Robushka, put her into the Blood Tide team, and that makes Medicine Pocket fall off a cliff because he is now irrelevant. Okay, that's why he's only in D tier. Now, of course, he is in D tier and not an F or even on this list, because he's still a very, very viable substitute for this Blood Tide team if you don't have Robushka at your disposal, right? It's still a very, very, very good character, don't get me wrong, but Robushka is better. She's now in the Blood Tide team, and therefore Medicine Pocket has to be ranked way lower than he always was. Then Corvus is only here because of her individual prowess. She does not crush it as a character, because if you play the Dynamo archetype, you would do this with a character like Brome or a character like Lucy. There is no need for you to ever play Corvus under any circumstances whatsoever, right? We even have better sub DPS characters for that team with Ulrich. We need Sharon in this team, so Corvus having a rough time finding her spot on this Dynamo team. That's why she's in D tier. She's not lower than that, because individually she is not like so bad. She's better than Marcus, right? She has a higher DPS output than Recoleta has, right? She has to be a higher rank than these characters because she's individually just stronger than them. Moving into the C tier, we have the Poison archetype right here with Ramona and Willow. The reason why they are still ranked so low is because their team just simply does not have a sustain character. And if you are played in a Poison archetype team, if you are Ramona or you are Willow, then you cannot be ranked into the S or A tier or something like that, because your team is simply incomplete and lacks the final piece of the puzzle. This hurts you as an individual character. Your team that you are played in would wing it with the sustain, and you would have to rip out a viable sustain from an already existing team and put it into your team, right? That is not a good thing. That is not good for your account, and it would hurt you when it comes to how many good teams you can actually play. So yeah, they are very, very, very strong characters individually. This is why they are in C tier. But again, their team is not complete, and that's the reason why I cannot rank them higher. If you look at the higher ranks, then all the characters there are played in teams that are actually complete. Dynamo is of course a little bit of an exception, but yeah, that team is just overpowered, right? I think I don't need to explain that one. Then Brome kind of falls into the, or does in fact fall into the same category as Corvus does. The only reason why Brome is ranked higher than Corvus is because she is just objectively a better character than Corvus in any way. Faster, higher damage output, everything about Brome is better than it is for Corvus, but they both suffer the same issue, and that is that they don't really have a place in this game. You do not pull for Bromé to replace a powerhouse like Ulrich. You play Lucy as the main DPS for the Dynamo Archetype team, not Bromé. Right, again, you wouldn't have pulled for Bromé to replace a powerhouse like Lucy that is an anniversary character and just received a Euphoria update. That's never gonna happen, right? You're gonna waste your bunnies with that shit. So, where do you play Bromé? The answer is, or was in the past, you play her together with Anio and Sharon and Fatutu. That is now no longer possible because Fatutu is out of this team with Bromé because she needs to be played now together with Liang Yue and Chen Higuang. So Fatutu has a new home and leaves the side of Bromé, Sharon and Anionala. That destroys the entire team because the core part of this team was a double synergy between follow-up concerning Anionala and Fatutu and a synergy, Dynamo synergy, concerning Bromé and Sharon. That double synergy is now destroyed because Fatutu leaves and that kills the team. That leaves Anionala and Bromé homeless. You know what I mean? Bromé is completely out of the picture. Anionala, for Anionala you can still make an argument here because if you decide to skip Liang Yue and Chen Higuang because they are very, very expensive. They both desperately want portrait number 2, both of them. That makes them super, super expensive. Plus, they are both, if you don't own, for example, Liang Yue, you would have to pull on 2 separate banners. That is gonna eat up your bunnies like absolute madness. So, if you don't want to do this, if you can't do this because you are broke, you don't want to do this because what if, right? Then you have the opportunity with Anionala to play the follow-up attack team because you don't want to let Flutterpage and Fatutu gather dust. They are way too overpowered to ever not play them, right? So you want to give these 2 kiddies a home. And the best home you can give them other than Liang and Cheng would be Anionala and Kalabauna. This is again why Kalabauna is an F, and this is why Anionala is also so high. Even in the same tier as a character as Bromé. Bromé is individually, of course, a stronger and better character than Anionala would be. But Bromé doesn't have a home, she doesn't belong anywhere anymore. There was never a reason to pull for her, so it leaves her to be more relevant. Anionala at least has the scenario that I just explained to you. Okay, then we have the entire impromptu setup here with Barcelona, Aleph, Regulus, Voyager. They are still very, very nice. They are sitting very well in the metagame. They are right below Afterglow on like a ranked 6 or anything. They are very, very viable. As I said many times in the past, we are heading into a double impromptu metagame, and that leaves them viable. You know what I mean? We have a new planned impromptu lineup based around Paper Heron and An Li, but it leaves the Barcelona lineup pretty much untouched. Kiparina is not healthy for my argument here, but you don't really have to play Kiparina in the planned impromptu lineup. She can be replaced there and is not 100% necessary, although she is theoretically the best in slot. You don't need her there, you can still play her together with Barcelona. And that leaves the whole lineup here to be viable, to be very, very good, and it lets them the C tier. Then we have this aforementioned planned impromptu team, which Anionala is the partner in crime for Paper Heron. That is very, very respectable. That should net her, in theory, an A or at least a B tier, right? So how come she is in C? That is because this is an individual character tier list, and individually Anna Lee is not truly crushing it, to say the least. She's only here to provide more inspiration to this impromptu lineup, and it synergizes so well with Paper Heron, right? But individually, Anna Lee, yeah, not the biggest deal in the world. That's why she is not in B or A. Okay, Then we have Isolde. That is of course a staple in the Afterglow lineup, but she is as well as an individual, she is not as important as like a Beryl or a Lawrence would be. And yeah, Marsha is even more relevant than that, right? Isolde is the weakest piece in this Afterglow lineup, and that's why she has to be ranked lower than her teammates. Now, Mercuria, the only reason why she is in C tier is that even though she is a slottable character, that is of course a very, very bad thing. You want your home, you want your safe place in a top tier meta team. You don't want to be a slottable character for a very, very, very long time anymore. Mercuria is that. So she would be like E or maybe even F tier, depending on how her individual prowess or power level would turn out to be. The reason why she is so high up in C tier is because she is a very viable piece for the planned impromptu team. I just mentioned that you don't necessarily have to play Skipperina in this new planned impromptu lineup, and one of the best or maybe even the best replacement for Skipperina would be Mercuria. That's why Mercuria is so high up on the tier list. Here we have another example as to why this being an individual character tier list matters, and that is Via. Via is a very, very good example for this, because she would be theoretically, right, she would deserve the same rank as her teammates here with Marcus, Beth, and Argus. The reason why she is better is because she's individually much, much better, performing way better in her role compared to like how Marcus or Beth or even Argus perform in their roles. Via is actually one of the best sustained characters in the game, especially if we only talk about healing. Healing is way better than shielding could ever be, and the best healers in this game are Fatutu, Robushka and Via. You know what I mean? That is very, very respectable. Now, she would again in theory deserve the same rank as like a Tooth Fairy would. Put her in B tier. She's a better healer than Tooth Fairy, but she has a worse team, you know? And that's the problem. Her team is so bad recently that higher than C is impossible. C is really the absolute highest rank I could give Via, not because of how her individual performance is, but where do you put her, right? She doesn't have a place, let's be honest. This rank up team is too bad. The Brume Corvus team is not a thing anymore. It's also not good enough, and those were the two best places for Via. It's not crushing it by any means, and that's why she's quote-unquote only in the C tier. For her, you can actually make a reasonable argument and put her in D. That would be totally fair. I think she still is too much of a better character than the characters in D. She's way better than Medicine Pocket, right? Way more slottable, way better healer. Medicine Pocket does only perform in the Blood Tide, and yeah, the other two main DPSs, I mean, whatever, right? They can kind of be thrown into the trash. Via is better than that, so that's why I put her in C. Okay, then moving into the B tier, we have Tooth Fairy. That is gonna be our main sustain character for the new planned impromptu lineup, and that deserves a very, very high ranking. If you are part of a top 3, top 4 metagame team, then you have to be at least in the B tier, right? And her individual prowess is good enough to sustain the team alone, you know? It's a little bit dangerous, I know, but it can be done because the team is just so strong. It will obliterate the competition before Tooth Fairy would get in trouble with her healing. She's not a bad healer by any means, but yeah, you gotta be a little bit careful and make sure that you play this planned impromptu team, correctly, and then she can sustain the team alone. So then we have Afterglow, who's also very, very respectable, also like rank 4, rank 5 in the metagame. We will make a team tier list in my very next video, so stay tuned for that. Now, Beryl and Lawrence. You could make an argument for both of them actually to deserve the A tier. The reason why that is not the case is because their individual performance is nowhere near on the level of like a Marsha, you know? Marsha's value as an overall individual character is way higher than like a Beryl would be, you know what I mean? So there you go. And same for Lawrence, Butterfly. Beryl and Lawrence, they are kind of on the same power level, and they are very, very good characters, obviously, but again, not on a level of Marsha. They would not deserve to be in the A tier for that very reason. The whole Afterglow lineup, as individual characters, they all have to be ranked below Marsha. That's for sure. Okay, then we have Flutterpage and Tuesday. Flutterpage, I think, is needless to explain. She will be played in the top 3 metagame team in this Plant Impromptu lineup. So, I mean, there you go. We all know the kind of powerhouse characters that are Flutterpage and Fatutu. I don't think I need to go into much more detail here. I've already been talking way too much. Anyways, then Tuesday. Tuesday is in the B tier because Tuesday is the only reason why poison exists as an archetype. That is a fact. And therefore, Tuesday has to always, in a tier list, be of a higher rank than all of her teammates. Without Tuesday, her teammates wouldn't even exist. You know what I mean? She's the poison goddess. You know what I mean? It is really like that. So that's why she's in B tier. Again, this team doesn't deserve a higher ranking because they don't have their sustain yet and they're missing the last piece of the puzzle. They're still very, very relevant because Sotheby is just slightly not meta. She's almost there. It's just barely not enough anymore. So let's move to the A tier then. Here we have an absolute powerhouse character like Lucy Boosie, you know. The fact that, or the reason why Lucy is not S tier is because the S tier is now filled with more main DPS characters than the S tier was ever filled before, with Liang Yue and Paper Heron here joining the fray in this S tier with Nautica, right? It diminishes the value or the performance that Lucy would receive in her role as a main DPS. We now have more main DPS characters than ever before that edge out Lucy when it comes to their performance in their respective teams. So in her role, Lucy doesn't perform as good as she always was. That's why she loses a tier, and Liang and Paper Heron join the S tier instead of Lucy being there. I think that makes a lot of sense. Then we have our sub DPS aka supportive kind of characters here with Sentinel, Semmelweis and Ulrich. They also lose a rank. Like Semmelweis was in the S tier, Ulrich was in the S tier, Lucy was in the S tier, right? The reason why they are not there anymore is because even a Dynamo team loses a little bit of value. They drop in the team rankings, or they can potentially, depending on how many and what characters you purchase per trace for, will drop down, you know. The team around Liang Yue and Chen Higuang is gonna be better than Dynamo if you have both Chen Higuang and Liang at P2. So that makes it so that other characters, right, like Ulrich and also, as I mentioned, Lucy, they drop out of the S tier, mainly because Liang and Paper Heron join the fray. Semmelweis also loses a little bit of value because right now in the metagame in version 3.5, the Blood Tide team is as hard contested for their spot as they were never ever contested ever before. So the only character that can stay in the S tier is still by far the best character in the game, right? But the overall Blood type team loses a little bit of value because, as I said, they are now more contested with this new Paper Heron team, with this new Liang team, and yeah, that Dynamo will potentially get better, but yeah, that's not what we are talking about. The fact that we have two brand new teams that are both knocking on the door when it comes to contesting Blood type. The rest of the roster except for Nautica loses value, and that hits Semmelweis, so she will drop down a tier. Then Chen Higuang is of course played in the second best team in the entire game, together with Liang Yue. Now his problem is, why he's not an S tier character, is that he can only be played together with Liang Yue. That is a little bit of a downside, right? The same of course goes for Semmelweis, but Semmelweis has much more value to her team. You would never play Nautica without Semmelweis. That will never happen. But you can play Liang Yue without Cheng. It's only that Cheng needs Liang, otherwise he is not a viable character, you know what I mean? That's why these two characters here, Cheng and Semmelweis, are actually in the same ranking. Then we have Marsha and Kiparina, Precious Aria, in the same team. They are basically the same character. Now Marsha is of course better. Would that justify an entire rank up better than Kiparina? Maybe you could make an argument for that if we only judge individually, judge characters individually. Sure, I would get it, but we don't do that, right? It is about individual prowess, but not only. Here, Kiparina is just part of a better team. That's the whole reason. Marsha might be a little bit better individually, yeah, but if Kiparina has the better team, she is still more value, you know what I mean? And she's now even a little bit of a flexible character. But yeah, to be honest, so is Marsha. But yeah, Marsha's better individually, Kiparina has the better team though. That makes them both equal, and that's why they're in the same rank. Then we have Robushka. She is not in the B tier, but in the A tier now, because she has to rise in rank. As I said, Medicine Pocket is now not a thing anymore. That is because Robushka should be freed up from the Ultimate Archetype team. That puts her into the Blood type team, and tada, her value increases because of that, because she is simply played in a better team. She's the second best healer in the entire game, right? Contested a little bit by Via, but yeah, Fatutu is the best healer, Robushka is the second best healer, so she is in the best team in the game, and she performs in her individual role just perfectly fine, and that's the reason why she's in A tier. Now, the S tier, of course, right? We have the best character in the game by far with Nautica. We have the new established Euphoria for Liang Yue, which is absolutely crushing it, and you can make an argument that especially on P2, this is the second best main DPS in the entire game. She's played together, of course, with Flutterpage and Fatutu. It's absolutely crushing it. The synergy with a brand new character like Chen Higuang is through the roof amazing, and this team is crushing it absolutely. Then, of course, very, very close here is Paper Heron with this new Plant Impromptu team. It's you know, I don't think I even need to explain anything. We all know how strong the Impromptu archetype always was since it was released, right? Impromptu was always crushing it, and now we have a better Impromptu team than we ever had before. And even the main DPS character doesn't just see a Euphoria update, but we get a brand new limited character that takes the spot, right? It's insane, you know what I mean? The whole team is filled with absolute powerhouse characters. Brand new Euphoria for Annalie, brand new Euphoria for Two Fairy, brand new limited character main DPS. I mean, holy, that team is absolutely crushing it. Then Sharon you could make an argument that it wouldn't be 100% true that you can only play a Dynamo archetype with Sharon, right? No. The Dynamo archetype team was also extremely good when Sharon wasn't even released yet. Just Sharon completely elevates this team to new heights. He is the most important character in the Dynamo archetype, and considering how strong the Dynamo archetype is, and if you are the best, by far the best character in that archetype, I mean the S rank is absolutely deserved. And then, yeah, we have our goddess Fatutu, who is, I mean, at this point we can say she will never be dethroned, right? She survives so many sustain characters, and she will always be the best, because she is just the best healer in the game. She cleanses debuff like no one else. She has this very overpowered unique mechanic only attached to her that lets you spread the damage across your team. It is just completely unmatched. No matter how many shields or what other healer we get, if a sustain character doesn't heal and cleanses buffs and has damage spread, Fatutu will not be dethroned. And I mean, what kind of character would you release that is better than Fatutu? It's almost impossible, if I'm being honest. And that's why our queen is still up here in the S rank. Okay, we did it, boys. That's it for the video, guys. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section down below. It's gonna be a party. It's always so funny. I can't wait for your responses. But yeah, that's it for me, guys. Have a great day. I hope that was fun and informative. Take care of yourselves. Have a great day. And we love this game.